King Hezekiah's life story is one of the most exciting in the entire Bible. It has an amazing historical setting, rich characters, both evil and heroic, unbelievable miracles, and an unpredictable plot with twists and turns that will keep you on the edge of your seat. But this is not just an amazing story. This is the real historical account of one of the most remarkable kings in the country of Judah, taking place in a time in history not so different from our own. Well, was Hezekiah a good king or a bad king? Did he follow Yahweh or not? What did God say about him? To understand the backstory of King Hezekiah's life, it's important to know what was happening in the country of Judah right before the time of his reign. So we will begin this 6-session study of King Hezekiah with the story of King Ahaz, King Hezekiah's father. Studying Hezekiah is a bit challenging because parts of his life story are found in 3 books: 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and the book of Isaiah. Hezekiah was king from around 720 BC to 686 BC. Let me take you back to the country of Judah in the year 736 BC to Jerusalem. Isaiah the prophet's there. Would you like to hear about what was happening then from his point of view? My friend Logan will be reading Isaiah's journal for us. Of course, this is not really Isaiah's journal, but woven into the lesson, you'll find the story of King Ahaz and King Hezekiah as recorded in the Bible. An exciting part of this study is the archaeological evidence for this period of time. Don't miss these links found on my website at birdchurch.net, along with the lesson plans for each lesson. Also, watch for comments from my husband John now and again throughout the study.
Welcome to this study on Hezekiah that Patty put together. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We always talk about Bible stories, books of the Bible stories, and I don't use that word story because it really should be referred to as an historical account, because everything that's here is confirmed in archeological discoveries over and over again, like the Dead Sea Scrolls in the book of Isaiah, because Hezekiah is written about in Isaiah. So we're going to go through the study of Hezekiah. There will be lots of archaeological support as well as scriptural support. And I think you're really going to find it fascinating and interesting. So watch out for the extras at the end of the Bible studies. Follow those and look at those, and you'll really get a lot out of them. Thanks for coming along.
As you learn about King Ahaz, think about these questions. How is the political and social climate of Judah in this time period similar to what is happening in America today? What did the remnant of Yahweh followers do during this period of time? How will you prepare to succeed in an increasingly apostate culture? How can we hold on to hope? Let's check in with Isaiah.
First year, first day of Ahaz's reign in Judah. I have just left the palace of King David in Jerusalem, where today we crowned Ahaz as the sole king over Judah. For years he has been serving beside his father King Jotham. Now that he has gone to join his fathers, Ahaz is king. He's so young, only 20. He looks so unsure of himself today. His wife Abi was standing next to him in the ceremony. Such a lovely young woman she is. Her father Zechariah has been a faithful scribe for me. I am sure he has taught his daughter well, especially how to love Yahweh. However, I am uncertain whether King Ahaz will have the same zeal for Yahweh as his wife. I have a strange foreboding regarding Ahaz. Time will tell. First year, second month. In just a short amount of time, Ahaz has decided to become a progressive king, shunning his father's old-fashioned worship of Yahweh and embracing the worship of Baals and other gods of the Canaanites. He has put up altars to worship these false gods in every corner of Jerusalem and is encouraging the people to join him. How could this be? How could this be happening? But that is not the worst of it. Tonight, my wife and I were awakened from sleep by drums of the followers of Molech. I watched as King Ahaz himself led a procession of his advisors and others down the streets of the city of David. Quickly, I dressed and followed the crowd. They were headed to the valley of Hinnom, outside the city walls, where a huge bronze statue, burning with fire, now stands. I gazed in horror as I watched King Ahaz and his advisors, one after another, throw their sons into the fire. The screams were covered only by the constant beating of the drums. The stench was drifting up the hill to the palace, where I could only imagine the agony of Abi. Upon the news of the death of her son, no one was sleeping tonight in Jerusalem. While part of the city celebrated, the rest of the city contemplated the death of so many of the sons of Judah. My heart is heavy tonight for us all. The Torah strictly prohibits the sacrificing of children to Molech. God's judgment will be coming soon to our nation. Ahaz has put our entire country in danger. Instead of spending time reading the Torah and sacrificing to Yahweh, he is clearly putting his trust in other gods. Whatever is he thinking? First year, 7th month. We received word today that our neighbors to the north, the country of Israel, and the Arameans, also called the Syrians, have formed an alliance to protect their countries from the massive Assyrian army coming from the east into the region. After the time of Solomon, the son of David, our country was divided in two parts. The northern kingdom is known as Israel, with the capital at Samaria. The southern kingdom of Judah has its capital here in Jerusalem. King Ahaz, not wishing to join the alliance, has now made us an enemy of Syria and Israel. Their kings have a goal to take Jerusalem and to install a Syrian king in King Ahaz's place. Third year, 1st month. We are at war. The news is not good. It is clear that God has delivered King Ahaz and the entire country of Judah into the hands of the Syrians. They have attacked our country and taken many hostages to Damascus, their capital. Also, Pekah, the king of the Israelites, has invaded Judah with a great military force on our northern border. Our army went out against them, but were soundly defeated. We lost 120,000 men of Judah in just one day. Nothing like this has ever happened before in Judah. To make things worse, the army of Israel has captured the wives and children of these men and taken them to Samaria, the capital of Israel. They have treated them as slaves, marching them into Israel without feeding or clothing them, along with their cattle and other spoils of war. Around 200,000 people. King Ahaz is in mourning. The entire country has been laid low by these two battles. Morale is low. Instead of crying out to Yahweh for help, King Ahaz insists on continuing to worship the Baals and Asherah, seemingly under every green tree, all the while continuing to sacrifice to Molech. A remnant of true Yahweh followers has begun to meet in my home for prayer. We are now in the minority and our influence has waned. As Judah loses more men and more battles to the Philistines and the Edomites and other parts of the kingdom, pagan worship becomes more entrenched in Jerusalem. We feel more and more in danger for our lives as our so-called tolerant culture becomes intolerant of us. Third year, 2nd month. I received a letter today from a friend of mine named Oded in Samaria, who is also a prophet of Yahweh. Praise God. God has preserved a remnant of believers in the capital city of Israel too. When the large group of prisoners from Judah approached the gates of Samaria, he boldly went out to proclaim the word of the Lord to Israel's military leaders regarding the captives. He spoke a warning to them. Release our kinsmen from Judah. Yahweh is angry. The leaders of Israel had gone too far in killing their brothers from Judah and taking the women as slaves. This was strictly forbidden in the Torah. Then Oded explained what happened next. Some of the leading men of Ephraim pushed through the crowd and came out in support of Oded. They began to feed and clothe the women and children, also giving them shoes and water to drink. Miraculously, the words of Yahweh had turned the hearts of the military commanders, and they agreed to let the captives go free. Such a miracle! There are very few believers in Yahweh left in Samaria. The leaders of the city personally led the women and children as far as the city of Jericho, a northern outpost in Judah, and released them to return to their homes. When hearing of this miracle from Yahweh, I thought King Ahaz might soften his stance against God, but the opposite came true. As he became more and more distressed, he became more and more unfaithful. Instead of returning to God, he completely turned his back on him. His face was full of fear as he announced today that he was stripping the temple of Yahweh of its silver and gold and sending what remained of the royal treasury to Tiglath-Pileser, the king of the growing Assyrian Empire. He hoped this gift would seal the alliance with them, securing military support for Judah against Israel and Syria. Third year, third month. We have received word that the armies of Syria and Israel have been deployed once again and are across the border from Judah. The entire city of Jerusalem has been gripped with fear. God spoke to me this morning, giving me a word from Yahweh for the king. I was to take my son, Shear-Yashub, with me to meet Ahaz this morning on the highway to Fuller's Field, right next to the aqueduct of the upper pool outside the city walls. We waited for the king to drive by in the royal chariot, and sure enough, just as Yahweh said, Ahaz arrived. I have written the exact words I was to deliver to him down on the holy scroll. But here is the summary of Yahweh's message. Be calm. Do not fear Israel and Syria. The plot to take Jerusalem and install a new king in your place will not come to pass. Within 65 years, Israel will fall as a nation, and Samaria will be gone. Within a few years, Syria will also be overtaken, and both kings will be dead. Oh, how I have prayed for Ahaz, but his heart was hard toward Yahweh. When I asked him to request a sign from Yahweh to validate the word that was given to him, he disrespectfully refused. He sarcastically replied, I would not want to put Yahweh to the test. His heart was full of disdain and disrespect for Yahweh. I became angry, and being filled with the Spirit of God, began to prophesy. Hear now, O house of David, it is no small thing for you to weary men, but will you weary God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Curds and honey he shall eat, that he may know and refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that you dread will be forsaken by both her kings. Before I could even comprehend the message from Yahweh I had just given to the king, more words came out of my mouth. What followed next surprised me. It was not the countries of Syria and Israel that would attack Judah in the future, but the king of Assyria, the very king he had sent to for help. Hard days were coming, and he had chosen the wrong king to appeal to for help. The appeal would be in vain. But Ahaz was in no mood to listen. He quickly drove away with a sneer, shaking his unbelieving head at me. From now on, I must be careful. My writings would be for the remnant of believers and be included in God's holy book. My scrolls needed to be preserved for future kings who might truly want to trust in Yahweh. King Ahaz had turned from Yahweh, and his ears were stopped from hearing his words. Fourth year, second month. We have been under siege in Israel from the Syrians and Israelites who are trying to take Jerusalem now for 2 months. Food and water is becoming scarce. We are meeting regularly now, underground, as a group of believers, and praying for deliverance for the city, as Yahweh had proclaimed to King Ahaz. Our faith is strong, and we are trusting in God's word to us. 4th year, 3rd month. King Ahaz announced to the entire city of Jerusalem this morning that the siege is over. He claimed that his brilliant move of sending gold and silver as tribute to the great king of Assyria had paid off. Tiglath-Pileser had chosen to attack Damascus, the capital city of Syria, and to take the city. Ahaz further boasted that the Assyrians had come to the aid of Judah due to his quick actions and his appeal for an alliance. The Syrian and Israelite armies surrounding Jerusalem had fled at the news of the fall of Damascus. King Ahaz himself has been called to meet personally with the Honorable Tiglath-Pileser of the Assyrian Empire in Damascus. He will be departing soon with a contingent of soldiers to seal the alliance. All of Judah was cheering and celebrating, dancing in the streets and praising the king. But I remembered the words of Yahweh. It was Assyria who would bring Judah low. They were the real enemy. While the rest of Judah partied, our remnant fell to our knees and prayed, waiting on Yahweh to tell us what to do next. 4th year, 5th month. King Ahaz has been gone for roughly a month. Finally, we had a breakthrough in prayer, and I received a word for us, for the remnant of Jerusalem. I wrote the remarkable words down, again on the Holy Scroll. The Yahweh followers were anxious to hear what he had said. First, we were not to walk in the way of these people. We were not to be afraid of them or their threats against us, but rather separate ourselves and continue to trust in Yahweh. He was the one we should fear. We were to allow him to be our sanctuary, our safe place. He would personally protect us. We were to wait on him and hope in him. In the meantime, we were to bind up the words of the testimony, the holy words of Moses, and the scrolls of the prophets. We were instructed to divide them up, hiding them in different homes to protect them from harm. At that moment, I rededicated myself and my family to the work of the Lord. We would be available to do his bidding, whatever it might be. Already, my 2 sons had been given prophetic names. They had already been used as signs and wonders for the purposes of Yahweh. There were dark days ahead in Judah, and the people would soon be hard-pressed and hungry, and cursing their king. We must hold firm under the protection of Yahweh and not yield. 4th year, 7th month. Something is going on at Yahweh's temple. The priest Uriah has been put in charge of building a brand new altar. I have heard through some of the remaining priests loyal to Yahweh that the plans were sent to him by Ahaz. It is the replica of the altar used to worship the Assyrian god Asher in Damascus. 4th year, 8th month. King Ahaz has returned. He has moved Yahweh's altar off to the right side of the temple and put a new, foreign altar in its place. He has instructed the priests to offer the daily sacrifices on the new altar. I cannot believe the effrontery of his actions. Moreover, he himself will be using the old altar for his own personal sacrifices. He has decided that the gods of the Assyrians are greater than Yahweh because the Assyrians were able to take Damascus. I dare not write any more at this time. 5th year, 8th month. Micah has been visiting us from Moresheth and sharing with us the prophecies he has been given from the Lord regarding the fall of Israel to the north. These are dark days in Judah. The king has taken all the articles from the temple of Yahweh and cut them into pieces. He has shut the doors of the temple completely. There is no more Yahweh worship in Jerusalem. Instead, he is encouraging the people to worship on the high places of Baal. He has constructed places of false worship in every city. The remnant is praying and waiting as instructed. We are in constant danger of persecution, but the Lord is good. His mercies, they endure forever. 15th year, 12th month, 25th day. King Ahaz died today. There is no one to mourn him, and he was not buried with his fathers in the tombs of the kings. His son, Hezekiah, will soon be crowned king. This young man, who has been quietly raised by Abi and Zechariah behind the scenes, has been instructed in the ways of Yahweh. We are praying for Yahweh to work through Hezekiah and to bring revival to our land.
King Ahaz was one of the most wicked kings of Judah and the most hated. He left the country in ruins, drained the treasury, and closed the temple of Yahweh. During his reign, we see that his tolerance for the worship of other gods caused the country to deteriorate. Not only did Ahaz tolerate worshiping other gods, he fully participated in worshiping them himself. However, God had a plan. When things are darkest in our lives, we need to remember God is working behind the scenes. With Yahweh, there's always hope. King Hezekiah was being trained up in the wings. But not only that, the people had been given the ultimate hope of all hopes to hang on to. A virgin will conceive and bear a son, and his name will be called Emmanuel, God with us. The Messiah was coming. We too have this hope as an anchor for our souls. Jesus came once as a baby and a suffering servant. Soon he will come again as a conquering king. We are watching our country reject God too. Churches are being boarded up. Our society has outlawed prayer in schools and is participating in child sacrifice and pornography instead. The worship of self has become the religion of the day. But we have this hope. It's our blessed hope. Jesus is returning, and soon. Pledge to make that promise the anchor for your soul. In lesson 2, what do you think Hezekiah will do when he first becomes king? Don't miss it. By the way, I can't wait to share with you the archaeological evidence for the existence of Isaiah, King Ahaz, and Hezekiah. The archaeological evidence for this study and this time period is amazing. Be sure to watch it. The first one I'm giving you to watch is a short video about the seal of King Ahaz found. It's on my website at birdchurch.net. Also, you'll find lesson plans, worksheets, and other supplemental materials to go with this study. See you in lesson 2.
And the lover of my soul, creator God, he is Yahweh, the great I am.